Hello, hope you're having a great day. Victor here with VC Football as always. And forgive me guys, I don't normally make videos unplanned like this, but the footballing world has been completely shell-shocked over the last 24 hours or so with the announcement of the European Super League. I had so many people messaging me over the course of today asking me, what is the European Super League? Why is this happening? How is this going to change the footballing world? So I decided to make this video. Let's not waste any time here and let's get into it because I have been livid ever since I found out the news. And just a forewarning, I will be giving some pros and cons to the new European Super League, but for the most part, I'm going to be playing devil's advocate. And just up front, just to know, I'm not a big fan of it. So first of all, the big question here, what is the European Super League? Well, in a nutshell, it's basically 12 of Europe's biggest clubs getting together and establishing a new competition that's going to rival the UEFA Champions League. And what teams have joined so far? Well, we have 3 teams from La Liga in Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, and Real Madrid, 6 teams from the Premier League, including Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, and Tottenham. Then, wrapping up the list here, we have Juventus, AC Milan, and Inter Milan coming from the Serie A. Next question on the table is why? Why now? Why are these teams getting together and wanting to separate themselves from the rest of the footballing world? Well, in a nutshell, it's all about money. As you can see here, the formation of the Super League comes at a time when the Rona has accelerated the instability in the existing European football economic model. AKA, we don't have enough money and we want more of it. According to the founding clubs here, their objective is improving the quality and intensity of existing European competitions throughout each season. In their eyes, they're creating a format for top clubs and players to compete on a regular basis. They're going to be midweek fixtures, so in an ideal world here with the European Super League, each club is going to remain in their respective domestic league. So La Liga, the Premier League, the Serie A, everybody stays in their own club, and then we're going to play midweek. But unlike the Champions League, there's only going to be 2 groups, 10 teams per group, where they play every other team home and then away, with the top 3 in each group going into the quarterfinals. Like I mentioned earlier, the biggest reason for these clubs getting together and making their own league is for financial benefit. There's a lot of money at stake here. According to this here quote, payments will be substantially higher than those generated by the current European competition and are expected to be in the excess of 10 billion euros during the course of initial commitment periods of the clubs. In exchange for the commitment of the founding clubs, each will receive an amount of 3.5 billion euros solely to support their infrastructure investment plans and to offset the impact of the Rona. Also, highly important and worth mentioning, Florentino Perez, the current president of Real Madrid, is going to be the first chairman of the Super League. As we all know, football economics has been incredibly disrupted by the Rona. These clubs depend on people buying tickets and coming into the stadium to watch the teams play. Obviously, with the Rona, people weren't able to get in large groups, and of course, this hurt each team's bottom line. No money coming in, no money for all of these rich stooges who are just up in their mansions. Here, their slogan is the best clubs, the best players, every week. And here's the format of the competition. It's going to be a new European competition with 20 clubs total, comprised of 15 founders and 5 annual qualifiers. There's going to be 2 groups of 10 clubs each, playing home and away fixtures within the group each year. And they claim by bringing the best clubs and the best players in the world, the Super League will deliver excitement and drama never before seen in football. I'm not too convinced, but more on that later. Let me just go ahead and say I don't like how they are committing themselves to these 15 founding clubs. What gives them the right in order to say, hey, we're superior, we can go out and form our own system, our own league, our own competition, And we'll leave, 25% room for 5 people to come in and out every year or so. And my other problem with that is, who determines the 5 clubs? They weren't really clear on this. Is it going to be the champion of every domestic league comes in, and what? There's really no incentive for these clubs to perform over time. If you're a founder, you're basically set. You're going to be in the competition regardless of your performances, regardless of your form. I mean, you're basically a shoo-in. And I feel like that's going to be a major problem going forward, because we live for the competitions where we can see an underdog facing off against one of the biggest clubs in Europe. And to be fair, these guys are the biggest clubs in Europe. They have the most money, and they can and do have the power to do something like this. But does that make it right? Absolutely not. You're taking away the fans. You're taking the power out of the players. How many times are we going to be able to see Real Madrid versus Liverpool before it gets boring? It's going to be the same clubs over and over. What makes the current UEFA Champions League so special is that we don't get these kinds of matches all the time. It's a drawing, it's random. You don't get to see Barcelona versus Juventus every year. So when it does happen, you tune in. Everybody gets excited about it. Just recently, we had a repeat of the Champions League final last year, with PSG getting their revenge against Bayern Munich. And I don't know. I personally love a good underdog story. I love to see a small club just give it their all against somebody who should, on paper, get the win. But as we know in football, you can keep your stats, you can keep all of your numbers, because in the end, 11 guys are going to go out there and give it their all. That can get you very far in football. And that's the passion that we love to see in the beautiful game. Not a bunch of rich clubs facing each other every year. No, nobody wants to see this elitist kind of group in football. How are the smaller clubs going to grow? Or how are they even going to join the Super League? It keeps improvement from the game. I absolutely hate it. I can't stand the idea of just the same clubs playing over and over. And it's very short-sighted in my opinion. Sure, maybe in the first 2 to 3 years, we're going to have some big games that we're going to be able to watch. But after 10 years, is it really going to be that exciting? Or is it going to get stale over time? They're not thinking about the long term. It's going to get stale. It's going to get boring. If a team is able to make it into the knockout tournament, it's going to be the top 8 clubs following the group stage. And then these games are going to be played away and at home until the single match Super League Championship, which according to this is going to be in a 4-week end of the season kind of format. They're doing a really good job of hyping it up here, but like I mentioned, how many times can you do this before it's not so dramatic anymore? And another thing I want to mention here is there's no promotion or relegation. There's no incentive for these clubs to improve because they're guaranteed a spot regardless of their form, their performances. You can basically go out there, you're in the European Super League, let's say you don't score any goals, you're the worst team in the league, and you just don't give a damn because you're in the league regardless of how well or how poor you do. It's just a cash grab. That's all it is. The games will be played midweek and all clubs will remain in their domestic leagues. That is in an ideal European Super League world because UEFA and FIFA have teamed up and they have said that players who join this European Super League will not be allowed to play in their domestic league. They won't be able to play in the Euros. They won't even be able to represent their country in the World Cup. So big, huge consequences if you are to join this European Super League. And the biggest problem I have with this is the division that it's going to cause in football. You can't just group together a certain number of players and keep them from playing all of these other teams in the world. This isn't like in the United States, and I live in the United States, where basketball, football, baseball, they only have a certain number of teams, and that's why they use the format that they do. Not in football. There are hundreds of teams throughout the world. And what makes it exciting is to have teams who get promoted when they do really well, when they're in great form, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and teams get relegated when they're not in their best form, when they're not performing. That's what makes the beautiful game what it is. Keeping the same teams in one little cluster, one small little group, all of the little rich clubs that you want to just group together and make a brand or a franchise. I mean, it's just terrible. I absolutely hate the idea. Now, to be fair, like I mentioned, playing devil's advocate, would I love to see some of these huge matches be played in the United States where I live? Sure, I'm not gonna lie. If they were to get together and play some of these games, I would be thrilled to go see these players play on US soil. But at what cost? If that meant destroying football, creating division, creating this just elite group of clubs with all of the money, I'm not for it. I'm not gonna support it. Just don't come at me with that. Now, I do want to point out that there are some big names that are excluded from this group in the European Super League. The likes of PSG, Bayern Munich, Dortmund. The French and German teams basically have declined the offer to join this special league. Now, there is possibly a major reason for that. It's worth noting that in Germany, there's the 50+1 clause that was written back in 1998. It basically forces members of the club to control the majority of the voting rights to prevent an ownership takeover similar to what we've seen in other teams in top leagues. As for PSG, it's worth noting that the head of the Qatar Sports Investments Group, this Nasser Al-Khelafi person, owns and operates PSG, and he also holds a seat in the UEFA Executive Committee, where he was elected to that position back in 2019. So they do have their reasons for why they possibly would not be in this group. There's a lot of things that are kept secret, and honestly, that makes me really sad, to think about the division in football that would happen with this European Super League. All of these bigger clubs just jumping ship and creating their own little island of football. Meanwhile, they leave everybody else to just fare for themselves. Maybe people are going to boycott it. Maybe people won't support it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you agree with the European Super League? Do you want to see these big teams play each other week after week? You don't want to see the likes of Barcelona versus a team like Shakhtar or Club Brugge. Some of these smaller teams, you just want to see the big teams play each other. And, I understand that. That would be one of the pros to the European Super League. Also, there's a huge financial incentive for clubs to join the European Super League. In fact, founding clubs are going to be getting 300 million euros, which equates to about $450 million just for accepting the invitation into the European Super League. Also, the winner, the champion of the European Super League, would get 400 million euros. That's over 200% more money compared to the reported 120 million euros that the UEFA Champions League winner gets. A big difference in money. So I understand why these presidents, why these board members would want their club to be in this European Super League. They basically guarantee the finances for their club for the foreseeable future. And like I mentioned earlier, in an ideal world, this European Super League would replace the Champions League, but clubs would still be able to play in their respective domestic leagues, and they would be able to play for their country in the Euros, in the World Cup and such. That is, of course, if UEFA and FIFA aren't able to stop them. But honestly, I feel like there's a lot more cons with this European Super League than there are pros. Playing the same clubs over and over, year after year, is going to get boring. There aren't any smaller clubs, any underdogs, any growth that you can observe if it's just a closed-off little ecosystem of rich clubs. Another huge con is that players who join the Super League would be banned from domestic league and world competitions like the Euros, like the World Cup. I really don't want to see a world where the biggest players in football aren't in the World Cup. That just doesn't seem right to me, and that's really terrible just thinking about it. Man, what a bummer that would be. Again, small clubs would not be given the chance to grow, and honestly, some of the smaller clubs that are at the bottom of the pyramid would probably just go bankrupt. They would not have an opportunity to make money. It would be devastating. It would basically be feast or famine. The teams in the European Super League are set. They know they're guaranteed to make money. They're getting money just to join the league, whereas these smaller clubs are basically just gonna wait it out, maybe hope for the best. I mean, it just doesn't seem right to me. But as I mentioned, UEFA is not taking this lightly and are erring on the side of action. And in fact, the executive committee for UEFA responded to the threat of the breakaway league by unanimously voting to sanction the new-look 36-team Champions League. In a vote in Switzerland on Monday, the executive committee passed a resolution to expand the Champions League from its present format of 32 teams with the reshaped tournament due to commence at the start of the 2024 season. This change is going to see each club play 10 group games rather than 6 before advancing to a 16-team knockout system in the second half of the season. So it basically guarantees each team plays more times, giving each team more chances at revenue, whether that be via TV broadcasting, ticket sales, museums, souvenirs, jerseys, all of that jazz. But the biggest news I want to give y'all regarding UEFA is that they are set to meet to determine the Champions League future for Manchester City, Chelsea, and Real Madrid since they decided to join the European Super League. On Tuesday, UEFA will meet to determine whether or not the trio of Super League involved clubs still active in this year's Champions League will be kicked out of the competition. So Manchester City, Chelsea, and Real Madrid, who are set to compete in the semi-finals starting on April 27th, may be kicked out of the tournament. We might not even be able to see these games. That's how drastic of an action UEFA is planning to just put their foot down. They're saying, no, you're not going to see out the rest of the competition if you're going to leave us to join this elitist group of clubs. It's going to get wild, guys. It's going to get ugly. There's going to be a lot of legal battles, I am sure. But let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with the European Super League? Do you want to see these big clubs form their own little island of football? Or do you just see this as the rich trying to get richer while leaving everybody else behind? Again, I just want to thank everybody who has been supporting VC football over the last year and a half or so. I am coming close to 2 years on YouTube, so a huge thank you to everybody who watches my videos, everybody who hits that like button. If you enjoyed this type of video, be sure to just destroy that like button. It helps out tremendously, gets this video out to other football fans who can let me know, do you hate or love the European Super League? Subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Smash that bell icon to always get the notification. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Peace.